Hi guys and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Wanda Sueda and I bring you another one of personal finance book review. This is called From Debt to Riches by Phumelele Ndumo, right? And this is such an exciting read. I'm excited to review it with you guys. Again, I did mention that I've read so many of personal finance books and I want to share insights with you so that you get to decide if this is the book you want to add into your bookshelf. And my reason for doing this is so that you can choose a book that you feel that speaks to you. Okay, this is a special book because I'm reading it for the second time, and the reason I'm reading it for the second time is because the book club that I'm part of chose this book to be our January book, and that was exciting because I was like, yay, I've read it. And on top of that, your girl was selected by the book club to be able to present a case study on the book, as well as to have a conversation and discussion and facilitate the Q&A with the author. So really, I've spoken to the author, I've gotten all the insights and the juiciness of where the book comes from. So really, I'm ready to dish it out to you guys. And to be honest, if it doesn't show, I just want to tell you guys that I am excited about this book. And the reason I'm excited is because of how powerful it is, right? Starting with the title of the book, From Debt to Riches, Steps to Financial Success. That's such a powerful title, and it brings some sort of a hope to a reader because it starts with like a heavy debt management into investing, then that brings a little bit of light into our future. Okay, so let's start with the book review. Let's start with the author. The author, to be honest, is very experienced. And I know that during the interview that I had with her, she mentioned that she spent so much time in the banking industry and got to understand how banks actually works, and that's where she learned, or that's where the desire to write was rooted from, because she wanted to educate the public about things that are not, obvious, and that are not so apparent, or people are not sharing them openly, especially these companies, this institution, financial institution. So she decided to write a book so that you can be careful, you can be aware, right? So yeah, that's the author, and her name again is Phumelele Ndumo. And from the nature of her writing, the style of her writing, you can definitely see the experience and expertise coming out. She has so many examples of how things turned out for different people, and how it turned out for the best and for the worst, and it shows the level of experience of the clientele that she has worked with, and I love that. But more than anything, she actually also goes into details about the regulations of managing debt that we need to be aware of, that protect us as consumers. And that's the best thing that I like about this book so much, because when we know better, we do better. Knowledge is actually power, right? So that's one thing that I really like, that I've never seen anywhere. So the author, very experienced. The title, very hopeful. And talking about maybe the target market, I feel that anyone who is in debt, struggling to manage their debt, feels like they're over indebted, or really getting in trouble a little bit, or just trying to avoid debt as a whole, or trying to get to be debt free, with any kind of debt, this is your book. And I feel that, being debt free is a goal for everyone. So definitely everyone should read this book. And it's such an eye-opening book, very insightful, right? So now let's talk about what the book is about. I've spoken a bit about what the book is about, but I'm just gonna share with you guys what the book is about based on the case study that I shared with the book club. Okay, so I wrote that the book is a personal finance book, obviously, and it gives us a holistic view of how we can manage our money. The book starts with 4 chapters on how to manage debt. I love that so much because this is very relatable to every South African, as a lot of us were historically disadvantaged and we rely on debt for a lot of things that we do because we don't have the privilege of buying things cash. So we end up in trouble while we're trying to navigate this debt world. We end up in trouble, and a lot of people really can relate to the language of debt. And she speaks about how you can avoid being over indebted. How would you know if you're over indebted? What different options, various options you can choose to go with as a solution of solving over indebtedness based on the depth of your debt. She speaks about debt counseling. She speaks about debt mediation. She speaks about debt consolidation. She speaks about when and how you get into a garnish order, right? And how certain companies don't follow the laws when it comes to garnishing you. And because our HR most of the time are not clued up about those things, we end up being in trouble because then they just approve whatever the corporation or the financial institution is requesting of your salary, and therefore you're paying crazy amount of money that is outside of your plan. So really she speaks to us about what you should be careful around when that is happening, what you should sign, what you should not sign, those kind of things. Makes us aware of what's available for us to be able to resolve some of the issues that comes with over indebtedness without getting ourselves into far more deep trouble, right? She goes into details about the examples of people who got in trouble by signing, like maybe debt canceling solution that extend their repayment plan to like 50 years so that they can pay very little, but at the same time they're locked in debt forever. So really 4 chapters about managing debt, and she goes into all angles you can think of about managing debt, including paying your debt faster and becoming debt free. So really that she handles it very well. That's not all about the book. She goes on also to speak about how we can manage the money leaks. And money leaks, it's the things which actually eats away our money without us being cautious, right? Buying too much data, spending too much time going out, so it's all those small things that we spend on that we actually are not mindful that consolidated they actually amount into a lot of money. So those are money leaks. So she kind of goes into details through the budgeting chapter on how you can actually manage the leaks, right, by catering for them in your budget. Okay. And she speaks about saving and investing as a way of bettering our future or to improve our standard of living. Okay, so this is what the book is about. She speaks a lot or encourages readers a lot about owning a house and using it to refinance for other things that you may need, because the interest rate that is charged on the house is actually lower than any other interest rate in other debts. Okay. So I'm gonna also share with you my lessons. I know I've tapped into a bit of lessons there and there, but my key takeaways, especially those that I shared in the book club, were based on like the overview of the book and some of the things that I will carry with me, right? And one thing that I will say is that this is not a read once and then put it away type of book. It's a book that you would like to reference based on the area of your life that you're dealing with, because it goes into details and it gives you the tools and the knowledge that you need to be able to handle a particular situation better. Okay, so my lesson number 1, I would say that she emphasizes on the importance of personal finance education. I already said that when we know better, we do better, right? So especially around the debt area, because there's so much that we do not know, and there's so much that the corporations out there are taking advantage of us because of our lack of knowledge. So when we know better, we actually equip ourselves to challenge those people who make us sign for the things that we do not even know what we are signing, right? So we become familiar that we can sign our way our lives and therefore do better. Okay, so let's educate ourselves about what's out there so that we can make decisions that favors us even when we're already in trouble, so that we don't get furthermore into trouble. Okay, and another one is that Personal finance is personal. She speaks so detailed about how a lot of us get pressured into making decisions that don't fit our lifestyle, and that is detrimental to our financial journey. You find yourself being so obsessed with buying a certain car because you do a certain type of a job, and therefore ending up without a lot of financial muscle to be able to buy things that are actually important, without maybe buying a house, without sending your child to school because you're overcommitted into your car because you wanted to, keep up with the Jones, right? So she highlights that it's very important for us to be honest with where we are, make the financial decisions that are actually relevant for where we are, right? I want to read you a quote that comes from that book that is relating to a personal finance being personal, and that it should be an influence towards the decision that we make. It says, "The future happens one day at a time, one decision at a time. I hope you will make one decisions going forward," right? Wise decisions going forward. And she's emphasizing that, hey, any decision you make is a very important decision, and it will influence your future. So make sure that it comes from you advancing your own unique story, your own unique journey for better. Okay. And the third one would be, start early, you will finish first. And I know it's a subtitle from the book, exactly as it is. Start early, you will finish first. And this speaks about starting early to invest, especially for retirement, because then you give your money time to compound, right? And there's a lot of study that has been done that the person who starts early most likely retire with a lot more money than a person who starts then halfway. Even when they contribute double, they never catch up because their money never gets enough time to compound, right? So it's very important to start early, not only for retirement, but for other investment as well, to allow your money to grow long term. And another point that I want to make there, it's not necessarily from the book, but I feel that it's important to start early because it allows you the chance to explore the personal finance world. You get to understand what it means to make certain decisions and how they influence your future, right? So you start early and gets to maybe experience the risk without having to suffer much more consequences than you would when you're older, because when you're older, you have no room for risk, because then the consequences of risk when you are older, they're actually severe. You cannot afford to lose money because you have dependents, you have a lot of things that require your money. So therefore you need to have already equipped yourself to know what decision you need to be making to just maximize your money with fewer risks. So get into the market early so that you get to understand what to do and how to do it and what to avoid as well. Okay. Lastly, she speaks about number 4, the fourth lesson. It's about the fact that credit can be expensive. And credit can be expensive, guys. Like, you can end up paying triple the price of the product if you rely so much on credit. Again, I understand that we come from a historically disadvantaged background, so it's not a lot of times where we have cash to be able to buy things outright, right? But she challenges us to say, can you not wait? Can you not wait to buy something like a furniture on credit? Can you not wait to buy something like a phone cash, right? Instead of buying it on credit. So she's challenging us to learn the habit of buying things cash and saving up for those things so that we don't suffer interest rates that we can avoid, right? And in the same chapter, she speaks about the power of interest rate, that they are type of credit that are just too high, like your furnitures. You find that they're 21%, like your credit card is 21% interest rate. So we need to be aware of how much interest rate are we charged on a particular product or particular service that we want to buy, so that we do not pay interest rate that is not needed. So if you can avoid it, you need to avoid it. And in that topic of interest rate, she challenges us to actually, on page 26, to actually write down all the credits that we have on a list. You write the value that you're owing, you write the interest rate that you're owing, you also write the installment that you're owing. These will help you to actually structure a strategy on how to become a debt free. So you start thinking, which debt should I start with for me to actually get to become a debt free? So it's a table like this. So then you start thinking, okay, if I pay this one where I'm only owing 1,500, I have the 100 rand which I could be paying on the installment there that I can take and pay on the second debt, so that I can pay 100 rand more and therefore paying my credit faster. And cumulatively, you take the money that is freed from being debt free or from paying up an account into the second debt, and then you get to see the light of becoming debt free. And I personally believe that that is a goal for everyone, to actually become debt free, right? So that's something that is very interesting that she speaks of in the book. I also want to highlight some important topics that I feel like she covered that for me are not necessarily a lesson, but I want you to be aware how rich the book is because it covers these topics. Okay, so she speaks of insurances. I think the topic, it says, if you cannot afford to pay for it, if you cannot afford to pay for it, cover it, or something like that. So you really need to think about insurances, particularly when it comes to life cover. And if you have dependents, guys, I'm sure thinking about death, it's challenging, and it's such a dreading topic. But it's a reality. One thing that is certain is that we're all going to die. And if we are realistic about that, we'll then think, if I happen to die and have dependency, what kind of lifestyle do I want them to live? There's an example in the book that says there's a lady who actually lost her father. And unfortunately, the mother was not working because she didn't need to, because the father was taking care of the family. So she said, okay, things started becoming shaky because then they lost two cars, the one that was her father's and the one that was her mother's, right? But the reality clicked in when they actually lost a house as well. And then they moved into her sister's apartment, 1-bedroom apartment, which was too small, right? I'm pretty sure that the father didn't want them to live in this kind of condition. And if he was aware, he would have chosen to have a life cover so that the credit and the lifestyle of his family could be sustained in case of his death. Unfortunately, when we think about death, we think about other people. We don't think that it can happen to us. And the reality is, the time and the hour is known by only God, right? So really, let's try to think about it and plan for it and prepare for it, so that really we don't leave a burden to the people whom we love, who we want the best for, right? Also write a will, guys. Write a will so that the assets which you leave in this world really can be allocated to the correct people who you wish to leave these things to. So this is the depth, this is how deep the book goes, right? She goes into detail about things you need to be careful about when you're writing a will, what makes a will valid, and executors as well, and the fees that are associated with executorship, right? And who you should appoint, or what you need to think about when you're appointing an executor, right? Some important things that actually allows us to plan, to have estate planning mentality and holistic view of estate planning are shared in the book that are very important. Again, the last point that I want to highlight is how she emphasized the power of owning property or buying property. There's so much that you can do about property, appreciation, making more money out of it, refinancing so that you can pay for other things such as your children's school fees using property, and borrowing from your own equity from your property, because then the interest rate that is charged on property is actually less than any other credit that you can get out there. So please, if you feel like this information is valuable, go and get this book. She has a company called Tutuka SA. You can find them on Instagram. I think you can find them on their website as well. Just check them out. I think the book is 160 Rand or 200 including delivery, so go and check it out. But this is a very powerful book. This is like a reference personal finance book, because for any I would say any phase of your life, you may need to go back and actually reference to the things which you have read from this book. Without making this video very long, I just want to say that thank you guys for watching, and please remember to subscribe. I am on the road to 10,000 subscribers, so your subscription very much matters to me. Thank you and goodbye.